Greetings to all of you who are joining our Earth Wisdom Academy call. People from all around the globe are with us, and I invite you to join the chat. And Sheila Safer will be monitoring the chat, and we invite you to respond with specific questions and comments, and let us know where you are, and your joining energy with us will support our inquiry today. So imagine for just a moment that you had a special piece of equipment that you could look into your body and you could see some of the protons whirling around in your body. And not only that, you could count them. And you would find out that there are 7 followed by 27 zeros numbers of protons in your body. And suppose further that you could look deep into the proton. And at the heart of the proton, you could measure what was there. Now, zoom out to one of the large black holes in our galaxy. And as you enter the black hole, you could also measure that, and to your great surprise, you would find that there's a correlation between that black hole and this little tiny opening in one of the protons in your body. This is fascinating, this possibility. It reminds me of what we say in my tribal background, that the spirit is at the heart of the creation, and that all of the creation is in the spirit. So this is what we're examining today in spiritual physics. A couple of years ago, I was invited by the Damanhurian community to be the North American ambassador of the indigenous mind in their gathering. And it was really one of the outstanding experiences that I've been involved in lately. And so I'm greatly energized and alert and present for our guests today, our 2 guests. And I'm going to introduce Jennifer Knight. And Jennifer has been with us before and is a therapist and an attorney and an environmental activist and a dear friend. So Jennifer, I'll pass the talking stick over to you so you can introduce our other guests for today, and away we go.
Thank you, Will. I'm just delighted to be with you today and be with everybody on the call. And it's my great pleasure to introduce my friend and teacher, Gnomo Orzo, whose Italian name is Rinaldo Accorti. He lives in Damanhur, which is an amazing spiritual eco community in northern Italy that I have been delighted with the opportunity to visit and become some part of since summer of 2014. And I was also really privileged and blessed to be there, Will, when you encountered and made the connection with Damanhur a couple of years ago. And Gnomo has published a book recently on Damanhur's spiritual physics and bridging that spiritual physics to modern physics, which you were somewhat alluding to in your amazing introduction, between the connection of the protons in us, the black hole in the proton, and the black holes in the universe. So that's what Gnomo is going to help us explore today. And I want to say just a little bit more about Damanhur for those of you that maybe aren't familiar. First of all, Damanhur has been around, like I said, for 40 years. It's one of the oldest spiritual eco communities on the planet. And they have so much wisdom and creativity and inspiration to share with us. And we're just going to stick our toes in that wonderful water today with Gnomo. It is located in the foothills of the Alps, north of Torino in the Piedmont region of Italy, which is absolutely beautiful. It consists of a federation of communities that are scattered or spread or integrated, networked in this beautiful river valley called the Valchiusella. And it is a really stunning place to visit at all levels. So I want to now say a little bit more about Gnomo. He is a teacher in Damanhur School of Meditation. He's also a spiritual healer in their School of Pranatherapy, and there are many schools that we can engage with in Damanhur, so that's one of their ways of connecting with the world and sharing their wisdom. And Gnomo worked with Damanhur's founder, an amazing man who I never got to meet, but his name is Falco Tarassaco, and they worked together on the research and the development of spiritual physics that we're going to hear more about today. And Gnomo's studies have led him to also deepen and investigate and reevaluate some of our ancient history, and particularly the archaeological and historical aspects of ancient civilization in various places like Bulgaria, Greece, Hungary, Spain, focusing on the myth of Atlantis and the various peoples connected to Atlantis and the archaeological sites where they lived that contain clues to what that amazing civilization and part of our heritage was all about. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Gnomo at this point. And Gnomo, I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about yourself and your story, perhaps, of how you came to connect with Damanhur.
Yeah. Good boy. Hello. Of course, yes. I went to Damahnur in 1988. I was very young, a long time ago. And I started to be connected to Damahnur from a television program. I saw Falco interviewed by the Italian television that was talking about these people of Damahnur, that they was ready to go to the space because of NASA and NASA calling for people interested to go to the space. So that's my first connection with Damahnur. And I dreamt Damahnur. I dreamt Falco for a few days. And I understood that this connection was very strong and was not only from this life, but from a very ancient history inside me. That's why I started to join Damahnur. And one of my first meetings with Falco, with the founder of Damahnur, was in Turin, in a public meeting where he gave to the people, to the audience, a very strange question. That is the title of my book. So, how many holes does a ring have? Was a trick, was a koan, a game to help the people to start to look at the universe in a completely different, new way. That's my very first connection with the philosophy of Damahnur. So, from the very beginning, I started to work around the idea to create a completely new physics, new paradigm, that in the same time it was able to connect the universe, the law of the universe, the physics with human being. Because today there is a lot of division between human being and the planet, the ecosystem. What we believe in Damahnur is that there is a strong connection between every form, every live creature. And if we want to found a new physics, we don't need to look outside. We need to look inside us. That is the place where a lot of information, a lot of knowledge are contained. That's why when I talk about physics, we usually talk about spiritual physics. So a physics that can embrace the entire creation and not only everything that is outside.
Okay, well, thank you, Gnomo. And I remember when you told me that story of your first meeting with Falco, and maybe you just mentioned a little bit, but I think it's such an interesting detail that when you first saw Gnomo on the television, he then began showing up in your dreams. Is that right?
Yeah. I started to dream Falco the first night, and he arrived to me and say, "Please join us. We are waiting for you." And he said, no, I don't want to join you because I know what happened. Every time it's the same. A lot of work, a lot of stuff to do. So, and it happened for maybe 2 or 3 days. And one of these dreams, I said, "Please, go away. I don't want to come to them." He said, "Okay, no problem." So he completely left. And maybe 5 or 6 months later, I was talking with my best friend because I was very unsatisfied about the life I was living in the place where I was born, with a lot of illusion all around me. So I was very unhappy. And my idea was to take a motorbike and travel all over the world. And this friend of me say, "Oh yes, I'm just reading a very nice book about a new project, a new community. We want to create a new way of living." And say, I was very curious. "Oh my gosh. So tell me about it." And he'd say, "You give me the book." I turned the book and there was the photo of Falco. I'd say, "Oh my gosh."
So at that point, Gnomo, you surrendered.
Yeah, I surrendered.
And you followed. You went to Damanhur and you met Falco.
I met
in
Falco
the flesh.
in person, and when I met Falco, I arrived in one of the big plaza in Damanhur. I met Falco. He started to laugh a lot, and he said, "Oh, finally, just arrived." I was very amazed, very, very. That's only the first of a lot of very nice
surprises.
Stories. Yeah.
Yes.
A lot.
Yes. Well, let's dive into your book. So, as an introduction to your book, I'm just going to try to give our listeners a little bit of an orientation and then let you dive right in. But I would say that your book is a bridge from some of the cutting edge discoveries of modern physics, the quantum mechanics, Einstein's theories of general and special relativity, to the spiritual physics of Damanhur, and as one of its wisdom offerings to the world. And even the topic spiritual physics goes beyond what we normally think of in our mainstream culture as those two things being very separated, the spiritual and the physical or the scientific. So what you've done in your book is weave those two together. And that's what we're going to be exploring today. So take it away.
Yeah. First of all, talking about creation, in the book, I collected a lot of myth about creation all over the world, because looking at the myth of creation, we can find a very, very nice, a very interesting aspect. They are all very similar. They are from different places of the world, from different culture, from different times, but they are all the same trick to create the universe. The creation is always a division of God in many, many, many pieces. So instead to look at the universe like a place where we have a lot of mass, a lot of energies, and a lot of time, we can look at the universe like a place where we have a lot of diversity. And due to the diversity, we can feel, we can understand the universe can be very big or very small. That's one of the main aspects of the spiritual physics. The size of the universe is connected to the perception of the creatures. It means that we can change the universe, changing the way to perceive the universe. And all over the planet, there are a lot of very ancient techniques to use the senses to create and to perceive reality. It means that not only time and space are relative, but the entire universe is relative. Mm-hmm. Creation that in the ancient Hebraic transcription, for example, of the Bible, is the terms to create is bara, that means to divide. In Greek became logos, again, divide, define. And in a lot of other myths, there is the same trick. So we have not a God outside that enter or create. The God divide himself. And more than we divide, more when we have diversity. It's very simple. It's not too complicated. It means that every part of the universe, every proton, every galaxy is a piece of this creation. That's one of the basic points. In the first part of my book, I described the different steps of the modern physics from the end of the 18th century, from that moment to the second part of the last century, where we define a completely new universe that unfortunately we are not yet teaching at our children at the schools. The children at schools, they are already learning a very old vision of the universe. Quantum physics, relativity is not yet into the schools. That's another aspect. We need to understand that time is relative, and my present and your present, they are two different presents, because the speed of light, because we use perception to perceive reality. So according to this new vision of the universe, we arrived in the last part, in the middle of the 19th century, 1940, 1950, where few physics, they started playing with quantum physics and analyzing the electromagnetism. They understood that the protons, the particle, they are constantly floating in time, from past to future to past. And from this point of view, they arrived to theorize, to understand that maybe in the universe, we can have only one particle. And this particle can create and design the entire creation of the universe. Only one particle is so fast that we cannot understand that is working in this way. But maybe we have only one particle, so no mass and not energy. And this is what they understood in the 2000 with the last evolution of the satellite, that they start to measure the worm of the universe, to find a certain place of the galaxies of the universe where there was more warm. What they understood is that all over the universe there is the same temperature and there is not a center. And at the same time, they understood that there is no mass and no energy. So all this mass and all this energy is created by the perception of the alive creature. That's a completely new paradigm.
So Gnomo, tell us how this somewhat mind-blowing paradigm of understanding the universe connects to our beautiful planet Earth and the human relationship to the planet that is in such disarray at the present moment.
Yeah.
How do we reconcile those two?
Yeah, it's very, very, very simple. Imagine that this creation is like a breath, something that like the body, expand and contract the universe constantly. That's the creation. So every few seconds, the universe is completely redesigned, recreated, constantly, moment by moment. We have a lot of creation of the universe all over. And this breath, the human breath, is only one of the breaths. We have breath nested into other breath. For example, the breath of the planet Earth is the cycle of the year with solstice and equinoxes. So it's a breath inside another breath. Human being in the last 2,000 years, especially when the Roman Empire was born and the creation of the monotheisms, completely lost the connection of the environment and the body. So we stopped to feel that the rhythm of the planet Earth and the rhythm we have inside our breath, they are strongly connected. They are the same breath. Imagine that the time of the planet and the time of human being, they are inside, nested together. That's why all the people of the planet for thousands and thousands of years, they were celebrating solstices and equinoxes. Because in this way, they was aware, and they was part of this rhythm of a creation. Lost in this rhythm, we start to have problems. We started to be alone. We started to be completely, we started to have disease, tumors. All the problems we have today, they are the result of the disconnection between us and the nature and the planet Earth.
So another big concept that I found in your book that I want you to say more about is the importance of relationships. So you mentioned that the universe was a process of division of the absolute, what we might think of as God, into all these diverse parts.
Yes.
And we suffer now from separation. We suffer now from lack of relationship or awareness of relationship. So how does the creation, which comes about as a process of division, and relationship, how are those concepts related in Damanhur's spiritual physics?
Yeah, we can use the modern physics to explain it in a very easy way. Today, especially the last evolution of the quantum physics, the quantum mechanics, like, for example, the quantistic gravity theory, says that there are not form, there are only relations. It's a very simple example to explain it. Imagine the room where you are, or the room where I am. This room exists because it's divided by the other room. So without walls, without the division, without these thresholds, we have no other rooms.
So I just wanted to clarify that. You said without the threshold and the walls, we wouldn't have the room, right?
Yeah,
okay.
The room or the particle, the chair, the planet exists because it's divided in terms of a different, it's a different perspective of this one. And perception divide. For example, we can look, we can smell, we can touch. Every sense divide the reality in small parts. This division is what we call creation. So instead to look at the result of a creation, the proton, the chair, the table, the sun, if we look at what create the table, the proton, the sun, so the relationship, the perception, if we go in the middle, and that's what all the meditation techniques all over the world, they do from 1,000 years, to stay in the middle. If we come back to the middle, if we are able to, instead to run and run, to do something, we stop and we feel what really is happening, into a breath, we can really understand what creation is. Creation is beyond the form we are created. So we need to come back to the creation instead to be on the created aspect. That means in some way to come back to the cause instead to be only an effect of the reality. Today the people, they believe that you need to face the day, you need to face the life. We don't need to face the life, we need to create life. But we need to go one step beyond to do that. In the center, like Will was in this beautiful introduction says, in the center of us, there are all the other people, there are all the other forms. But it's not easy because we are constantly dividing and dividing. It's like to ask to your friend, can you explain who you are? And they say, yes, I'm John. Oh, how many John there are all over the planet? Oh my gosh, a lot. So you're not John. What you are? Oh, I'm a lawyer. Oh, how many lawyers there are all over the planet? So it's not easy to really say who I am without talking about something that is outside me. That's the culture of today. Mm-hmm. In the ancient languages, they had a lot of terms to define the present. And in a lot of languages, there was not the future. Today, all the language, they have the future, the past, and there are few terms to define the present. That is the only place and the only time where creation happened. The present today is like a slippery fish. It's not easy to catch it.
So that kind of brings us to your description of what is the purpose. You know, the big question, why are we here? Why are we humans here? And what are we all about? Can you address that in terms of our relationship to the universe, to creation?
Yeah, of course, I think that every person has a different answer to this question. But we can say that, first of all, it's very important to ask ourselves, what's my mission? Who I am, and what I can do to be completely happy, to be completely aware, first of all. And in my book, at the end of the book, when I start to talk about this lesson with Falco, where we was digging into the different new perspective about the physics, I asked myself why the creation happened, and not only how. The modern physics is explaining how, every time, how it happened, but they don't want to talk about why. Because why means that there is a mission, there is a direction, there is something that is not in the physical world. So the modern physics don't want to talk about why. In the other side, we have all the religion and all the spirituality that they ask why, but they don't want to take care about how. I think that now today we can put together the two questions, how and at the same time why.
So Gnomo, I want to circle back to that question that you raised and bringing those two questions together. That is, it reminded me of a dialogue that I participated in with Brian Swim in the astrophysicist, who was asked, what direction, where's the universe going? What is the universe about? And he said, in a fascinating way, the universe is going toward every aspect being related and knowing every other aspect in its fullness. And in a book that I wrote in that direction, I said that the universe is related on one substructure as in the matrix, or as we say in the tribe, the sacred web.
Yeah.
And at the same time, as Jennifer points out, through the illusion that we look through, that matter is the only reality, we have these fracture inside ourselves and fracture outside ourselves. And so that I would say, as I'm listening to you and both of you, I'm increasingly feeling more related to you. And I'm also feeling more intimate. So how I would put it, where the universe is going is more and more intimacy through relationship.
Yeah, yeah, through relationship, and it's curious because the physics perspective is about a universe that is going from a complete order, from the Big Bang Theory, for example, to an end of universe where everything is divided, is cold, is died. But in the same time, the evolution direction says completely the same, but in a upside down point of view. So that going to a new complexity, we are growing and growing something different. So it's like to have in the same body, in the same bed, two different rivers that they are flowing two different directions. The entropy and the complexity is the same movement, but they can create two different.
Yeah, I want to also reference here, and maybe you can jump in here, Jennifer, but the power of synchronicity. As we get more and more deeply related, then we see how these relationships interface with each other in powerful and healing ways. And healing would be our moving more deeply into the relationships so that they reveal themselves to us. And I don't know if you were present when I was at Damahnur, and we were giving birth to the labyrinth, that beautiful crystal labyrinth. Mm-hmm. And it had
a spiral.
Yes, mm-hmm. Yes, a dome over the top. Mm-hmm. And there was a storm outside. And as Judith and I moved toward the center of the labyrinth, which I guess could be a proton, or it could also be a black hole. But as we moved toward the center, the storm came open and blew open the door.
Wow.
And all of the storm came inside. And it was as if it were saying what you started out to say today. Wow, we are breathing, we are breath, we are breathing, we are being breathed. We're the breath. At that moment, we could experience that. Whereas in our usual pattern of our personality, I don't see that. But in that moment, held by the matrix of Damahur, held by the matrix of the spiral, then that intimacy of the connection could be revealed.
Yes.
That's a beautiful example, Will. And as I'm listening to both of you talk, I'm reminded of, my kind of love affair currently with the idea of syntropy, which I think is coming very close to what you were just talking about, both of you. And it is very closely related to synchronicity. So just very briefly, syntropy is an idea that it is the direction of life or the universe, as you were just describing it, Gnomo, that moves in the direction of complexity and relationship and integration, which is the opposite of the story of the universe that's moving toward isolation, division, and death. And it doesn't deny entropy, because entropy is just as much part of life as death is a part of life. And I know that Damanhur completely embraces that concept. So I wonder if you could say a little bit about the relationship between death and life, and then also this idea of synchronicity, because Damanhur takes synchronicity to a whole new level.
Yeah, but in the same time, it's very simple. Yeah, synchronicity and this, it's like to have two children that they are playing together, the complexity and the chaos. And it happens every few seconds when we breathe. When we inhale, we put everything together inside us. So we are collecting the entire universe inside. So everything is chaotic. When we exhale, we are ordering the reality in causing effect chains. These can create complexity. And that's the work of the play of the synchronicity that connect together cause and effects.
I know when I was visiting there, they have this place where you stand if you want to catch a ride from one
Yeah.
place to the next. Tell us a little bit about that, because I think it illustrates what you're talking about.
Yeah, yes, there is a place in Damahur Crea where we have all the activity, and in the middle, the capital, there is a huge label that says, stay here and wait a little bit and breathe. Will be a ride. It's not a problem. You will find a ride for the place where you want to go.
Well,
Yes.
what was amazing, and Jennifer, you probably have more examples than I can think of, but it seemed to be a precision, like a key that fit in a tumbler. That you know how over here we have the buses, and there seemed to be a precision when people wanted to get from one place to the other, someone would show up at just the right time to take them, which was quite amazing.
That's how the synchronic ride system works in Damanhur. It's completely off the grid, right? Or it's on a whole different grid. It's on the grid of synchronicity.
Yeah, on another grid.
Yeah, on another grid. Gnomo, I'd like for you to also say a little bit about the importance of community and relationship, and how the more relationships we have, this is something Will mentioned a moment ago, it's like the more relationship and connections we have that are authentic and real, true and intimate, the more synchronicity starts to happen or be perceived.
Yeah, well, the basic idea is that creating connection between people, we can create a super mind. We can create a super creature that is the sum of all the people, where we have in the same time the free will of everyone, but a common project. That's not easy. It's like to put together communism and capitalism, where we are in the same time taking care about me, but into a project where there is us, not only me. It's the idea of the sum of elements that they could create added value. It's like the human body is the same. The human body is the sum of different organs. But these organs all together, they are not only the sum of my brain, my neck, my skin, and so on. Together, in relationship, in an intimate way, they create thought. They create idea. One idea can change the world. And the idea has no weight, has no mass, but is powerful. That's the result of the communion of the relationship between parts. And it is in the same time division, because a lot of part, entropy, but that is in connection, complexity. It creates a plus value. This plus value generates a lot of power. So we know that the senses are dividing reality. But if we create a super individual, the community, the people, this super individual has a lot of power that go beyond the limit of every one of us. Of course, you need to have a magnet. The magnet of Damahur is the dream of Damahur. The dream of Damahur is bigger than me. So it's something that is moving me a lot. It's giving me a lot of energy because it's not defined. It's bigger. It's quite impossible for me. But if I found a connection with the other, impossible became possible. That's why we choose to be in community.
So I think this is a point that we could explore for just a moment, just as we're coming to the close of our conversation here. Jennifer, thank you for pointing us to this very significant insight into the predicament of our planet right now. And that is, the challenge is in the building of community.
Yes.
So if you could say what you have experienced, Gnomo, as the wisdom of Damanhur in building community, how would you describe it?
It's a challenge because it's something that happens every day. Every day, and in the same time, it is quite amazing because during the day, you meet a lot of people when you go to work, when you come back to the family. And of course, one of the crucial aspects is about the rules. For example, I can be the king guide. In Damahur, we have 2 king guides. So they are the maximum level of the community because they choose about different strategies, the economic stuffs, and so on in the morning. But in the evening, when I come back at home, I need to wash dishes, I need to prepare the food for the other. So I need to turn my head and take another one. But instead to be the one that guide, I'm the servant. Yes. This play create a lot of movement inside me and help me to be different person in the same life. That's a trick to be constant in the path of the meditation. Today, all over the world, in the culture, not only the Western culture, unfortunately, the people, they have very few rules. My hobby, my family, my job. There are people, sometimes when you met people and they say, good morning, I'm Gnomo, I'm a lawyer. No, you're a human being, you're not a lawyer. Are you serious? You're not a lawyer, you're a human being. So in the community, every day, we change constantly rules, and this movement is a way to stay, to fall down in the, we not collapse. Became something very, very still, but we are constantly in movement. That's the challenge of Damanhurians.
Yeah, I think that's a really good place for us to pause here. In community, we tend to get into these patterns that are governed by rules. The rules are actually descriptions of the patterns. Yeah. And we get ingrained in those charades, those rules, those grooves. And what I hear you saying, one of the centerpieces of Damanhur is the ability to keep loosening. And there's a paradox here that as we loosen the patterns, we gain more intimate connection.
Yeah.
And in the intimate connection is in the healing of the separation that we have. Well, thank you so much for this, and we'll go off the recording now. And this has been a very rich discussion. Thank you both for this. Jennifer, I'd like to, Nomo's here with us also live from Italy, but I want to begin with you, Jennifer, and just get your response as you looked at your beautiful self as you as we're having this conversation.
Well, if it's okay, I'm not going to say anything about seeing myself on screen. But I will say that it did bring back what a pleasure our conversation was, which we had on the equinox together when we recorded it. And I guess some of the things that strike me now that maybe I didn't comment on before is Nomo's point about community creating a super individual or a super consciousness that is more than the sum of its parts. And I think that is a beautiful image for what community can be and the importance of communities being local. You know, I think I'm really feeling, as I know many of us are, that change is happening now from the ground up. That's the place it has to come. And I think, you know, Damanhur's wisdom and experience over the last 40 years of building community, they did it from the ground up. They started with 12 people, and now they have 600 living together in community in that valley and 1,000 worldwide. But we can do this in our own communities, and how being in a community is a spiritual path of its own. And so, you know, I was aware of how part of it is our language. But Gnomo had said, I understood him to say rules, but I think he was saying roles, whether it's rules or roles, just the importance of not getting identified with one particular role, either in our life, and certainly in community. And that's one of the innovations and contributions to Damanhur, is that everybody wears many different hats, which helps them to live out and move frequently from role to role in the community and in relationship with each other. And part of that practice is to recognize that everyone I encounter out here lives in me too. There is no us and them. There's only we. And they live this every day in a very practical way. And that's what community offers us. So I think that's a really exciting big dream. So that's the other thing, is the magnet, the glue that holds the community together through these daily challenges. And we definitely need this in our very individualistic American culture. Something to keep us in the boat together is having a big shared dream. And I think that Gnomo has given us a beautiful dream to be part of today.
Yeah, thank you, Jennifer. And that also points to the community that we have in this global call here, this Earth Wisdom community. And I want to point everybody, if you go down to the bottom of your screen, you can click on chat. And that's really an important way. Once a month, we're here together and we're building this large, interconnected sense of being with each other. That is a demonstration of really bringing together communities nested within communities. And also, I think we have Gnomo here with us live from Italy. So I'd like to get your response, Gnomo.
Hi.
Hello.
Fine. Thank you very much to be present again. Yeah. And I think that we touched a lot of points in the video, and there is a huge vision about this research. But first of all, I think one of the best aspects is there are people all around the world that they want to create connection, that they want to create networks, and they start to exchange points of view. Today, we arrive from a culture where we need to have one truth, and everything outside this circle is wrong. I think that today we are ready to be able to embrace the different point of view, because in the physics, today we arrive to the same point. There is not one main point of view into the universe. Everyone is the point of view. So everyone is the center of the universe. And today it's clear for physics too, not only for the culture, not only for a spiritual point of view. That's my insight.
Yeah, good, good. Hey, you know, Noma, I just want to say to you as I was watching this, Judith and I were commenting here that we have a multi-layered connection with you. On one layer, we're wrestling with wonderful, complex, ornate ideas. But on another level, we're connecting with your very, very engaging and lively energy. Mm-hmm. So it just, your vibrance radiates, and that's a gift to us all.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're very welcome. So again, I want to keep pointing to the chats. And right now, I know Nomo and I discussed offline the other day the common person that we have, Nassim Haramein. And Nassim has created about a 2-minute illustration of the physics, of spiritual physics, and particularly of the breathing. So I invite you now to join in this very brief illustration of spiritual physics. Your response to that?
Well, first of all, I love it. That's my initial response to it. But I think it's a wonderful and amazingly concise integration of some of the things we're trying to put into words in our discussion today. And then I love the last part, right? So what moves beyond? That's one of the things Nomo talked about, is creation happens beyond the form, in the space between, in the center that is in each of us, the non-local center, if you will, the centers that are all related. But that's where creation happens, is in that beyond, which is our imagination, which our imagination and consciousness itself are complete mysteries right now, right? Science cannot explain how consciousness exists. So I think that last part about imagination is not bounded is huge. That's where I find inspiration.
Yeah. Comments from you, Nomo?
Uh, this graphic, it's absolutely beautiful because it's very simple and describe this huge breath. And this is a ring with a hole in the center.
Yes.
Yeah, of course. And today, all over the world, the people, they have a lot of scare about this black hole we have in the center of us. But this is the only place where we can find the center of the universe, where there is not identification. So my prayer is that every one of us can have the occasion to come back to this black hole in the center, in the middle of this ring, where there is not the created universe, but there is only the creation. And this is what the meditation can do.
Okay.
To be completely lost, to found everything. Yeah.
Yeah, good. Thank you. Then on the chat, thank you so much, Gnomo, for being with us. Our hearts really are, and our minds are enriched by your presence. And many of you on the chat are asking about a link to this. And when we send this out, the recording of this video, there will be a link to this particular graphic. I want to point now to our next call, which will be Cinco de Mayo, the 5th of May, which where we live in the Texas Hill Country is a major celebration. And it celebrates an aspect of our relationship with Mexico that we love, contrary to some situations that we have in the world today. In our part of the world, we're deeply connected. And on the Cinco de Mayo, we'll be connected to something else. We're going in a week or so for our annual Vision Quest at Deer Dancer Ranch. And there'll be an encampment where there will be a plethora of visions. And through the night, there will be healings. There will be all kinds of connections, like the graphic that we mentioned. So on the 5th of May, in this call, we'll be celebrating the tapestry of visions that the implicate consciousness is sending through and bringing us at once our individual visions that connect us with the larger visions. So we'll be experiencing that in May. And then I also want to invite you on this coming Tuesday, which is April the 10th, to join us for a connection with one of the most important people of the 20th century, an exploration and celebration of Rachel Carson, who is the mother of the environmental movement and also simultaneously the mother of the science of ecology. And I'll be talking about that, and there'll be all kinds of discussion. And I believe if you check your chat box, Sheila is putting a link to that on the screen. And by the way, that is offered by Ubiquity Wisdom University as a service, free, so you can join in this conversation about Rachel Carson's great book, Silent Spring. Then we also want to point you to a possible connection with Gnomo. And Jennifer, you're going to tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, I'm very excited that Gnomo is going to be coming to visit us here in the U.S., both in Texas, right here in Austin, and in California in May. So I have some details on that to share. Gnomo will be in Austin on Saturday, May 12th for an afternoon workshop. It will include both a brief introduction to Damanhur as well as a little bit more of a presentation by Gnomo, and then an experiential aspect to really ground the material that he shares with us into our bodies and into the eco field so that we can really integrate it into our lives. And for more information about that, Sheila will put my email on the chat, and you can email me about that. And then also for those of you in other parts of the world, there's going to be an event on May 19th and 20th in Redwood City, California, where Gnomo will do a longer 2-day workshop. And that one will be, you can attend by video. So if you can't be there and present in physical form in California, you can join by video. And Sheila will put the website. It's called fortress.com, but it has a different spelling. And she'll put that on the chat as well. So anyone interested in that, you can either email me for the Austin event on May 12th or connect with fortress.com for the California event, May 19th and 20th. And we're really excited to have Gnomo come to visit. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, Jennifer, and thank you, Gnomo. And mostly thank you to all of you who join us. We have so many wonderful communities that are collaborating with this call. As I mentioned, we have Ubiquity Wisdom University joining with us. We have Texas State University Sustainability. We have El Centro in San Antonio. We have all different kinds of communities that are joining with us. We have a beautiful yoga community in Canada. We have Costa Rica. We have all these different communities who are joining together. And in some sense, some beautiful sense, we're getting an experience that we are children of the angels.
Hi there, Gnomo. I'm Judith, the spouse of Will. So I'm going to end this program and be off of this station in a moment, but I'm going to sing a song to you and to all of us. We are children of the angels, keepers of the fire. We are children of the angels, reaching for the light. We are not strangers, we're sisters and brothers. We know we came here to love each other, here in the circle of life. Many blessings.
Blessings, everybody. We'll see you on Cinco de Mayo, May 5th.